Welcome to my channel, guys. My name is James Makinson. Today, instead of doing the typical recipe video that we do or giving you some helpful tips in the kitchen, we're going to be making a video on some of the most essential tools that you will need for your kitchen. And I've been wanting to do this for quite some time actually, because most of the videos that you see, people are just trying to sell you something to buy on Amazon, some machine or whatnot, that you don't necessarily need, especially when you don't have a lot of space, as you can tell from my kitchen, that there's nowhere to put it. So today, like I said, I'm going to give you from a chef's perspective on some essential tools that you need in your kitchen, and most of these are relatively cheap to not that expensive, and you can either find them at the local culinary store if you have one near you, or even on Amazon. Amazon's made life a lot easier, they have everything today, but the point is, hopefully this will bring you a little bit of value, because the most important thing for me is to try to help you improve your cooking just a little bit more to make your life more enjoyable. So guys, whether you're moving into a new apartment or whether you want to improve your cooking, this is the channel to be. So if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, then be sure to hit that little notification bell down below and subscribe if you haven't done so already, so you will know all the new videos coming out. And like the video as well, as it helps greatly with the algorithm. And also, if you're on Twitch, I do live cooking, well, streaming cooking on Twitch. So I'll leave the link down below in the description as well. Anyway, let's get started. So obviously the first thing on the list that I'm gonna say is the most essential thing that you should have in your kitchen is a good knife, or a set of knives specifically. Not a full set, you don't need to go out and spend $200-300 on a full block of knives, but I would suggest getting a very good quality, or at least a decent quality chef's knife, a bread knife, and a paring knife. And if you can, get a steel, which is this, which hones the knife. That's all it does, meaning it just keeps the blade sharp. It doesn't sharpen it. That's a sharpening stone, that's another thing. But is to get a good knife. Now I use Wusthof, and I've had this knife for 7+ years now, professionally speaking, and it's never failed me once. It's cut me quite a few times, but it's never failed me once, and it's a very good knife, good balance. But it's not necessary that you buy just say Wusthof or Henkel or even Victorinox, which is another good brand, Swiss brand. What I would recommend is buying a set of 3 if you can get it, or at least a chef's knife and a paring knife, and then buying even say this Victorinox bread knife, which cost me about 15 or 20 euros a few years ago. I forget how much in the local store, but it's a very good knife, and well, it holds up and it'll last you for years. So if you buy it once, hopefully you will never have to buy it again. Then again, if you do have a good knife at home, either Global or any of the other brands, and they work really well, then that's all that matters. But I would recommend getting some sort of steel just to keep the knives sharp. And I can show you later on in the other videos on how to use it properly, but all you do is take the steel in one hand, and I'm doing this my way, and the knife in the other, and you're just going to go more or less a couple times on each side, just to keep the blade relatively sharp. That's it. All right, another thing that most people tend to overlook when having anything in the kitchen is having a good spatula. It's actually quite important. You do need a spatula of some sort. You have 2 types of spatulas. Yes, or at least professionally speaking, you have 2 types. Well, you have more than 2 types, but you have 2 specific types that I use all the time. You have the little rubber spatula, and these little rubber spatulas you can use for everything. You know, I used to saute onions, I used to saute hot food, I used to mix, I used to stir. You will use this for everything. Again, they're relatively cheap. They just cost a few euros or dollars, more or less. And if they break on you, as my other one did just the other day, so then you can easily replace them. And you can either get a small one, which I would recommend for most situations, or you can get the bigger pastry one, which again is for like bigger bowls and everything. So this is a little overkill, you don't need that. This is more or less the size that you should use at home if you have a normal size pot or pan. And then I would also recommend getting some sort of hard spatula, either plastic if you have a non-stick pan, because you don't want to use metal on non-stick pans, you'll scratch them, or actually get a metal spatula, This is a typical Spanish spatula. It's very flat, as you can tell. It's quite easy to burn yourself. So it is, especially your knuckles. I have my American type spatulas back home in the US. They're a little bigger and they're bent a little bit, so it protects your knuckles. But this fits relatively easy in my kit when I need to work. And again, something very essential whenever you need to pick up either fish, meat, anything on the grill, anything in the pot or pan. It helps quite a bit. Now, actually thinking about this list, it's quite funny that nobody mentions this. You need one of these. You need a peeler. It's important. If you don't have a peeler, you can't peel potatoes, you can't peel carrots, you can't peel anything. You need a peeler at home, and they cost you like maybe €2, $2 at the store. It's nothing. I would, however, recommend some sort of peeler more like this, where it's a pinch grip, where it's easier to actually peel the potato or to peel a carrot, instead of the ones that are a little flatter, which I do have on me, which is this right here. And as you can tell, there's a big difference when using both of these. So with this one, you're going to peel back on the potato, but with this, you need to peel a lot faster. And like I said, it costs a couple euros. It has this little blade on it, which allows you to take the eyes out on the potato. So, or the bruises, you can just scrape it out, which I've shown in a couple videos past. The fourth item that I would say is quintessential on the list. It's obviously something that you may not have, especially if you're moving into a new apartment, but I would suggest in getting a good hand blender. This is important. It's not necessary that you buy Bosch or any of the better brands, but it is essential that you at least buy one that has a decent amount of power that you can start blending and making sauces, dressings. You can blend soups. You can make a lot of things with this little blender, like a lot. And not only that, but they come with other attachments, so you can start slicing or chopping. You can have your own little Robocoo. It's not the same as a professional one, but at home or in a little apartment, you're not going to be putting out 50 meals a day. So I would suggest getting one of these. I forget the price on how much they are, as this is several years old and prices have gone up a little bit, but I will leave a link down below if you'd like to check out either this brand or any other brands as well that are a little more expensive or cheaper as well. But again, when it comes to any kitchen or culinary things, I would say that if you pay for the brand, you are paying for more quality. It's not just the name. You are actually paying for more quality, and they won't break on you as easily. So just keep that in mind when searching for things like this. All right, now for number 5, it's more of an essential 2-for-1, because without one, you can't really have the other. But I would say that it's important to get a mixing bowl of some sort. Either a little steel bowl like this. I would actually recommend getting several sizes, so you have a few options on if you want to make a little cake, a bigger cake, or if you want to make some salads or anything else. It's important to have a mixing bowl of some sort, and of course, a whisk of some sort. You don't have to get the big wire whisk. You can get a small little one if you want. It's not essential that you have a whisk, but it does help when, again, making some sauces or dressings. You can make your own mayonnaise at home, which I have a lot of recipes on, by the way. But these two things are very important, along with a rubber spatula. All right, this should probably have been number 2 on the list, but anyway, it's important to have some sort of cutting board. It's not necessary that you go out and buy a big, thick cutting board. And I wouldn't recommend getting the flimsy little plastic cutting boards either. I would recommend getting a decent either plastic cutting board such as this or a wood cutting board. However, for wood at home, it's not a problem. Professionally, we don't use wood because of problems to do with bacteria and everything else. So technically, we can't really use them depending on the place that you are. Like in America, you have to use plastic. But I would recommend getting a good cutting board of some sort. Again, they're not that expensive. They cost anywhere between 15 to 20 euros, more or less. And wood ones, I think, can cost as little as maybe 7 or 8. It depends, again, on where you buy it. If you buy it at your local store, or sometimes online, you can find some better deals as well. I will leave a link down below on some cutting boards to give you guys a few options. And if you get a package, so you get a little one and you can get several different sizes, I would say those are the best, because then when you're cutting any, say, chicken or raw foods, then you don't have to wash it to then cut the vegetables or then cut the fish or anything else. You can keep everything separate. So, and they don't take up a lot of space. So it's just something to think about. Right, so now for the 7th item, again, it's a multitude of items. You need some sort of good cooking pot and or pans. It doesn't matter, that you have 10 or 15 of them. I would suggest getting a good pot of some sort, a pot that you can cook pasta in, cook soups in, stews, whatnot, something deep that you can actually cook in. And then I would also recommend getting some sort of saute pan, a shallow pan such as this. I prefer non-stick because it's healthier for you. Non-stick Teflon pans are not good for you, but it does make your life a lot easier when you're trying to, cook things. So some sort of saute pan I would recommend. An 8-inch is good to start out with. You don't have to get 5 different sizes, but at least an 8 to 10-inch saute pan to make an omelet or to make something easy. And then of course some sort of pot. And specifically, if you wanted me to recommend a pot to get, it would be my favorite pot. It would be my Strab or my Dutch oven. This thing, literally, hands down, you can tell the difference in flavor with the cast iron. It will also cook faster, it retains the heat better. And it's easier to clean. You do have to oil it just so it doesn't rust, but this pot is my favorite. I cook with it every day. And trust me, it cuts your cooking time in half. They are a little expensive though, and these do cost a couple €100, so I would suggest that it's not necessary if you don't need it, or if you're not into cooking as much. It's not that important. So I would recommend some easy, cheap little pot. Even if you go to IKEA, such as this is actually from IKEA, it cost me €5. It's worked for the past 3 years. I bought this when I first moved into my apartment in Barcelona. And what do you know? It still works. €5. It is fine, yes? So again, it all depends on what your resources are. You have to make the decision on what you actually need and what you, don't need, what you can live without. Now guys, since I am a chef, I am a little biased, so I do say that you need a few more items in your kitchen. The things that I recommended, the last 7, was a little more than 7, but the suggestions for about 7 things. This was just if you're moving into a new apartment, or the actual basics if you need in the kitchen to make anything. However, if you do want to cook some more things or to make your life a little easier while cooking, then I would suggest that you get several more little items. One of them is obviously going to be a thermometer of some sort, either a digital thermometer or a normal one. The digital one will cost a few more dollars, but one or the other. It's important to have a thermometer, so when you check the food and you check the meat, you can tell that it's done. It's not essential, but it is a good recommendation. A microplane would also be another recommendation of mine. You can either get a narrow microplane, or you can get one like I have. This is much easier to grate cheese on because you have more surface area. Again, this is not too expensive. It cost me like €30 a few years ago, and it's lasted me for the past 5 years and is still sharp. I don't use it every day, but if I want to zest anything, if I want to shave some cheese or grate some cheese, microplanes are a great thing to have in the kitchen. And then if you're into baking, then I would suggest getting some measuring spoons as well as a scale, a decent scale. These two things are essential for baking because in the savory kitchen or in the normal kitchen, we rely more on our taste and our sight on feel when we cook. And this is true. We do go by recipes all the time and we measure and weigh. However, when you know something by heart again and again, we're not going to always measure every single little herb and spice. So we tend to taste. But in pastry, you have to be precise, because if you're off by just a little bit, it can mean the difference between a cake that's perfect or a cake that's maybe a little too salty. So some measuring spoons and a scale I would recommend. Again, I will leave links down below if you want to check that out. And these cost just a few dollars, it's not that much money. And then again, little rubber squeeze bottles are not a necessity. However, if you want to make some more elegant platings and designs, these are fantastic to have for plating. For me, I love using these. You can get them in all different shapes and sizes. And again, you can get them in bulk, so you don't have to buy just one, and they're cheap. Very, very cheap. And then if you're wondering what this little spoon is, this is a specific type of spoon to make spherifications. And I made a video on this not that long ago. And well, I can leave that in the link if you want to check that out. And again, this spoon costs a couple euros. It's not that expensive, but this just helps when taking the spheres out of the liquid, so it drains. It's not essential to have, but it does help if you're making spherifications. Also, one other thing that I almost forgot to mention is that if you're moving into a new apartment or a new place, typically you do have a oven tray. This is something that you do need to cook, to bake, to use for anything, as well as, say, the grill. But most ovens come with it. If your oven doesn't come with it, then you should consider getting at least one oven tray that fits in your oven, and or a grill if you don't have one. This just helps with cooking and baking. So this is one little thing. If you do have one, that's fine. I use mine from my oven. I don't need another one. But if you don't have one, then I will leave a link down below for you to buy a decent quality one that's relatively cheap. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. It was fun for me to make this. Hopefully it's brought you a little bit of knowledge and information, because again, the most important thing for me is not to just put videos out constantly. I do actually want to help improve your cooking, or at least to help improve your lives in the kitchen, because I know that a lot of people are either intimidated by it, they don't like it, or well, it's a little overwhelming. It can be. So hopefully this brought you a little bit of information and knowledge to help improve it. And if you have any questions or comments, then don't hesitate to ask me as well. And I will be starting soon. I will be giving cooking lessons as well, personally here, and I can also do them online. So if you are interested in any of this, then be sure to talk to me, as well as I'll be making some cooking or culinary courses later on. I have a lot of things going on right now. But in any case, guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for your time. I hope you have a fantastic week. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel as well, and hit that little notification bell. Share this with others if you think that it could give others a little bit of knowledge if they're into cooking or whatnot. And I hope you guys have a fantastic week. So until then, I'll see you guys again very soon. Take care.